Hello, and welcome to another episode of Automate Office Work. I'm your host, Justin. Today's topic is all about SharePoint. If you've been following my content, you might notice that a lot of my content is connected to SharePoint, and that's because SharePoint is everywhere in the corporate world. I believe it's about 85% of corporations have Office 365, so a lot of office workers have access to SharePoint. SharePoint is such a powerful tool. Most people do not realize its potential. They believe that it's just some old, boring technology with folders, and that's just not true. It goes so much deeper than that, you guys. SharePoint has so much power. It's actually used to power things that you use like Teams and OneDrive. And I was listening to a podcast with a developer of CoPilot, and this person said that the best thing that you can do to improve CoPilot is to use SharePoint. You need to put all of your data inside of SharePoint. So I'm going to go over a little bit of that today. I'm going to show you some basics of SharePoint, but then show you how we can go so much deeper, including some tools that I've developed for you. There's a group of articles that I wrote around February 4th and February 5th of 2025. You can find these at my website, automateofficework.com. Just scroll down to the articles section, go down there. They are in chronological order, so go down to February 4th and 5th. You'll find an article on SharePoint, which is at automateofficework.com/SharePoint. Another one is SharePoint CRUD, which is at /lessons/SharePoint-CRUD. And SharePoint HTML editor, that's products/SharePoint_HTML_editor, and WebPart, that is at /products/WebPart. We'll go over a couple of these articles later. But first, let's go over some basics of SharePoint. I do have a SharePoint that I'm going to be showing on my screen if you do want to follow along in the video format on LinkedIn and YouTube. But I'll try to also just describe it with words for those listening to audio only. When you create a SharePoint, it's usually, you have your subdomain, which it's usually the name of your company or something like that. For me, my subdomain is Automate Office Work, and then the rest of the URL is .sharepoint.com. Most organizations then, they want to keep their sites under a SharePoint. So there's a folder after that, it's sites usually. And that is because there are other kinds of admin URLs that might be like /admin. So let's say you wanted to create a SharePoint specifically for your admins, and you say, well, let's create it at /admin. That would conflict then with these types of URLs that we need for the basic functioning of SharePoint. So most organizations put it under a subfolder, and the default that Microsoft gives us is sites. So that's why that exists, okay? So most teams then are choosing to create a SharePoint underneath this sites folder. For me, I called mine test, and I'll show you a different one that is much more complex and beautiful, but this is basically your default layout for a SharePoint that has been created. There is a type of a toolbar along the top. You've got this kind of waffle icon that you can go to other Microsoft tools within Office 365, now called Microsoft 365. You do have a little logo for SharePoint, and it takes you, I believe, just to the home page for your organization, a very base SharePoint, like a home SharePoint. Then you have a search bar, and this is for searching I believe the entire SharePoint, although you can also probably just search a specific SharePoint. To the right of that, you've got some communication features. There's some kind of a megaphone icon some kind of guide to improve your SharePoint. There's some kind of a feedback icon. Then there is a gear. The gear is very important. This is for the settings for your SharePoint, and only admins of the SharePoint can access this, or at least most of this. This is things like the look and feel of your SharePoint, the different settings. You can change the look, give some site branding, and there's some kind of a dashboard. To the right of that is a question icon, and that is just to get help. And to the right of that, at the very right, you should see your initials for your first and last name. For me, it's JT, and if I click on this, does anything happen? Yeah, it opens up a little pop-up, just gives some basic information about my account. I can sign out, I can sign in with a different account. I can look at my Microsoft 365 profile, this kind of thing. I can also upload a profile picture here. Okay, but on the very left, we have some left navigation. There is a home icon, and that goes to the SharePoint start page. It says, so this is not my SharePoint that I'm on. It's to the organization's start page, whatever you define that as. I've got an icon to go to my sites, whatever that is. Maybe this is all the SharePoints that I have created, and maybe the ones that I have favorited. I've got some kind of news. I've got my files. What is my files? This is my recent files. And below that is my lists. What is my lists? Oh, just some lists that I've been creating and updating. And you can probably imagine I never use this. What is this? There's a create button. I can create a news post, a page, a new site, a new document, spreadsheet, a new list. Okay. To the right of that, now we've got a little icon and the name of the SharePoint that we are on right now. My SharePoint that I'm at is test. So I've got the name test, and we've got a little icon just with the letter T. To the right of that, it tells me that this SharePoint is a public group, so it is open by default to everybody. This is not just a private SharePoint that requires permissions to access. No, there is a visitor group, so anyone coming here would by default have the role of a visitor. I do have a star that is not filled in, and it says not following. So I think if I wanted this to show up on my list of SharePoints, then I would click on this star and follow it. Then you see that there are two members of this SharePoint. If I click on that, it tells you who the owners are. I have two different accounts that are owners of this, and because I'm an owner, I can add more members here. Either say that they're members of the SharePoint or they are owners, which gives them different access rights, of course. Okay, then on the left, there's another left navigation, very similar to the icons that we saw before, but this one is now in words. There's a link to home, which this does go to not to the organization's start page, but it comes to the home page of the SharePoint that I'm on. So this goes to automateofficework.sharepoint.com/site/test. Below that is a link to conversations. I'm wondering what this conversations is. I'm opening up this page, probably because I've never used, oh, it's opening Outlook. So it creates an email box for the SharePoint as well. So it created like a group email box when the SharePoint was created. Okay, come back. I've got another link for documents, and this opens the shared documents document library. It's a document library, which we will talk about in a little bit, but this is the default document library that is created. You can create others, but this is the one that is put in your navigation, and it's called documents, even though its real full name is shared space documents. The next link is to a notebook. This opens up OneNote, and so each SharePoint also creates a OneNote for it. There is a link to Pages. Pages is a type of library, and we'll go through that later. Site contents shows you all the different libraries that are in the site, different lists, different document libraries, the pages libraries, all of these kinds of contents. They're at site contents. Underneath that is recycle bin. And this is for most of your items that you delete. They don't just get deleted, they get moved to the recycle bin first, and they are there, I believe, for a default of 90 days. So if you decide you want to undelete something, you can do that at the recycle bin. And underneath that is an edit link. I can edit the contents of this navigation bar. To the right of that is another toolbar along the top. It says plus new, and it has an arrow pointing down. If I click on the arrow pointing down, I can create a new list, lists form, a document library, a page, a space, a news post, a news link, a plan, and an app. We'll go over a couple of these later. The next link is page details. If I click on this, it opens up a side panel on my right. And it looks like I can change the description of my SharePoint. I can change some properties. Yeah, it's got some details like the last time that this SharePoint page was modified, which looks like when I last created it. So I've never modified it. To the right of that is a preview link. And this shows me what my site will look like on desktop and on mobile. So that is quite handy. To the right of that is analytics, and this opens up a panel to the right, and it just gives me some statistics about the viewers and the views of the pages on my SharePoint. All right, to the right of that, it says published. So the version of the SharePoint page that I'm looking at right now has been fully published. It's not in draft form, waiting to be published. I then have a link to share. I can share a link to this page. I believe that opens up Outlook, or I can copy a link to the page. I do have a link to edit this SharePoint page. That takes me to the SharePoint editor. And lastly, to the very right, I have an icon. It looks like two arrows pointing away from each other to represent expansion, and that means it expands this SharePoint page, getting rid of the left navigation bars and two of the horizontal navigation bars that are along the top, or at least one of them. So yeah, you're getting a maximal view of your content, your page's content, at least what SharePoint will allow you to make as your maximum. Okay, now further, we have a SharePoint page that we can scroll down, and our navigation things stay in place. So we have a content window inside of our SharePoint page. By default, these are different sections, like you have news and quick links, you have activities, and you can see a list of files that have been created or modified. I don't have any so far because I've done nothing. I have no news by default. It looks like I do have some activities. It shows me some pages that have been viewed. All right, so yeah, if you want to get into making these kinds of views according to how SharePoint has allowed people to do it, you can click on edit, and you have different kinds of, they're called web parts. These are the different things that Microsoft allows you to put on a SharePoint page. For me, I compare them to handcuffs. It's very constraining for me as a person who does know how to code. I would like to be able to code and put anything on here that I would like, but I guess for people who do not know how to code, you do have the possibility to put on like a picture or a box of text. I'm the kind of person who would like to size my picture, maybe give my picture a border or a background, and then when I put a box of text, I would like to put different fonts to that text or a background, or I would like to put a button so that the user can click the button and something happens. These kinds of things are just not possible with SharePoint. SharePoint gives you just minimal abilities to do anything. But you do have, I guess there are two things to mention here. There are sections, and then within sections are web parts. So a section, at the very top, there's a horizontal line with a plus inside of a circle, and you hover over that, it says plus section. And if I click on that, we can add different kinds of what are called sections. It divides the page into different divisions. So there's one that's flexible. Ooh, it says it's new. That's nice that they give some flexibility finally. There's also 1 column, 2 columns, 3 columns, 1/3 left, 1/3 right. You've got a full width section, and whatever this means, a vertical section. Okay, so you can play around with those, learn how sections work, and then inside of a section, you underneath that plus section, I have another horizontal bar that appears with a plus inside of a circle. And now this one says add a new web part in column 1. So when I click on this, now I get several web parts. You can create a banner, put a button, call to action, image gallery, a link, a YouTube video, different kinds of things like this, a document library, a folder of files, different feeds, some kind of a countdown, a people, some kind of a people card. Maybe you can like have a list of people and it says the different files that they're working on. Yeah, you might find that this is useful. Play around with some of these. You might find what you need. I found, at least for my needs, that it didn't meet my needs. So I created my own web part, and you can see it's called AOW for Automate Office Work, and then General App is what I called it. And if I add it, you can see it says invalid JavaScript file URL by default, because we need to point it to a page of some JavaScript to give the content of this little box. Okay, so to edit the JavaScript file URL to make it valid, we have to click on, there's an icon for edit properties. It kind of looks like 2 horizontal lines with circles, kind of like it might symbolize parameters for you. But it says edit properties, and I click on that, and now a panel over on the right opens up, and it says JavaScript file URL. Oh, it also says AOW General App, an app for building apps. So yeah, I opened up SharePoint by doing this so that SharePoint can do whatever I want it to do. I can put in whatever code I want it to. So it needs a JavaScript file. So I'm going to go, the URL is going to be automateofficewrk.com/sites/legal/ let's do chatbot/javascript.js. Okay, so this is my file. I click on apply. It says failed to fetch. I'm wondering why. Maybe I misspelled something. automateofficework.com/sites/legal/chatbot/javascript.js. I do have a JavaScript file with that URL. Let's try it again. Apply. Failed to fetch. automateofficework.com/sites/legal/chatbot/javascript.js. I'm gonna paste it from a URL that I already have. /legal/chatbot/javascript.js. Okay, that worked. Okay, so now I have in my section, it just says the phrase hi there, and the background is red. Okay, so I'm going to republish this now. Am I ready to republish? Yes. Okay, so now I've got a little box there. It just says, hi there. So I can make my content look exactly how I want it to. I can change the font, I can change the colors, I can change the background. The background that I've placed in there is red. And now I'm going to show you how I would edit this, because you can't edit this using the SharePoint editor. Using the SharePoint editor, you're not able to edit HTML. So I created my own editor, which you can also find on my site, automateofficework.com. It is at /products/SharePoint_HTML_editor. If you go to that page, you can also buy. Okay, so I should also mention that the web part that I created, the AOW General App web part, it is available on my website for purchase as well, and there are instructions how to install it. You just saw how I installed it onto a SharePoint page, and I should probably, I'll show how to do 2 more ways for installing this SharePoint, this SharePoint web part. So, okay, this is when I've got a box and I would like to put it among all my other things on a basic SharePoint page. This looks very SharePointy to me. Let's say I don't want all of this extra stuff to be appearing on my page. I would like to get rid of a lot of this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click, I'm going to go to my Pages library, and I'm going to click on plus new, and I'm going to say web part page. Actually, let's see, in my site contents, let's say I want to put it at a subfolder. And so I'm going to my site contents, I'm clicking on plus new. I can create a new document library, and let's call it chatbot. I will not have it in my navigation. So this is essentially creating a subfolder in my URL. So it will be at sites/test/chatbot. So now I have a folder. Now I want to put a page in this folder for chatbot. So I'm going to come back to my Pages library, click on plus new, and I choose web part page. And I'm going to, for my name, I'm going to choose default.aspx. And this makes it so that if a person just goes to sites/test/chatbot, it will automatically redirect to default.aspx. This is the name for a default page, according to SharePoint. Okay, choose a layout template. I'm going to choose full page vertical. And that's because I don't want it in different columns. I just want to be able to take up the whole page in width and make this vertical. Okay, my document library, where I'm going to put this, it says site assets. I do not want that. I want it to, I'm choosing from a drop-down menu, I choose chatbot. So, okay, I'm going to create default.aspx inside of my document library, chatbot. Click on create. Okay, now I've got this kind of different kind of editor looking thing. It looks a little bit older. It says add a web part in the middle of the page. I'm going to click on that. And so now I get an extra menu at the top. It says upload a web part. I don't want to do that. I'm going to click on advanced. And now I have the web parts that I have uploaded myself. And one of them is AOW General App. Make sure that that's selected, and I click the add button. Okay, and it says, just like before, invalid JavaScript file URL. So I click on that. I click on, there's a very small down arrow that I click on, and then I can click on edit web part. It should open a panel on the right. Yep. And this panel on the right says configure web part, and then there's a button for configure. I click on configure, and it shows me the side panel that we saw before where I can input the JavaScript file URL. Let's see if I have anything still. Yeah, I still have that I can paste. /sites/chatbot/javascript.js. I'm going to apply. JavaScript file not found. Why? Oh, it's because it's not a test. It's at legal/chatbot/javascript. Apply that. And okay, I've got a red box and it says hi there in my page. And I need to be able to save this. So I click on the X and now I click on apply and OK. Okay, and now here I'm going to get rid of some of the extra. I have a JavaScript file off to the side, and it is actually doing some extra things. And so I'm making it not do those extra things yet, because I need to be able to explain what those extra things are doing. Okay, refresh. Okay, now we click on Stop Editing. And now if I just go to /sites/test/chatbot, it should redirect. It doesn't for some reason. Why not? Okay, now it's redirecting to default.aspx. I do have a red box with hi there, kind of in the middle of the page. And I've got this top menu bar. This says browse and page. I would like to get rid of this browse and page, and I would like to have this red box take up the full width of my page. I'd like to, and not have a margin along the top. I'd like to be able to use the entirety of the page. And so I'm also going to show my page editor, and maybe I can show them side by side, the editor and the web page itself. Okay, so I've got an editor that I created. It's also a SharePoint page. So this is a very powerful SharePoint page. It can edit other pages. Okay, and you see I have a bunch of stuff that's commented out. The stuff that is not commented out, I do have a function that runs as soon as the page is loaded, and it is getting for me the identifier of this web part. That's called instance ID. I then have my web part. It has an ID of SPFX. Stands for, what does that stand for? SharePoint Framework. They put an X at the end for some reason. And then I put the instance ID and then the inside the HTML. So I'm changing the HTML content inside this web part. So it says hi there. And then I'm changing the background color to red. And oh yes, there was a, let's comment this out. There was a title to this web part that used to be above it. Let's see if it'll show when I refresh the page. Maybe SharePoint is caching some stuff, but it's not. Okay, there we go. I refreshed it a couple times, and so it's showing that there's a title to this web part, AOW General App. So I also want to get rid of this title, which I did by using, I went to the parent, and then that parent, and then previous means like the sibling element that is beside this, and I hide this. So there are ways to hide this. Okay, I'm going to save that. And then all of this margins, that is, you get rid of it with this code over here. So I'm going to uncomment these out so it actually runs. Save that. Hopefully when I refresh the page, maybe a couple times, it won't use the cache. There we go. So now you see we are using the entirety of this web page. We have a red box that says, hi there. Okay, we can do some pretty powerful stuff now. I can say, like, let's do a function, load further, and I'm gonna say, wait, we're gonna call this function load further. We're going to append a button. We're going to put ID equals click me. We're going to say click me. And then we're going to define body on click. When we click the click me button, we're going to make a function, and it's going to say alert clicked. Okay, save this. So now we're adding functionality. So we're going to make it so the user can click a button and it does something. Okay, so now I've got this button called click me inside the red box, and when I click on it, it gives me a pop-up. It says clicked. So we are able to make an interactive page. You see, like at the very most basic level, I have made a web page that looks exactly how I want it to look, and I can give a button for my users to do exactly what I want them to do. This is the very most basic part of getting something complex, okay? Once you know how to do the basics, you can then go on to extremely complex stuff. You can give your users the exact interface you want to give them, okay? All right, I'm gonna show you one last way to edit a SharePoint page, and that is, okay, I need to go back to my site contents. We're gonna go to the home page of the SharePoint. And there is a plus new menu here. And when I click on that, one of the options is a page. And when I click on that, along the top are some tabs. If I expand it, okay. I click on a tab that says apps, and I have the apps that I have installed myself. One of them is the AOW general app. I select that. And then I click on create page. It asks me for the title of my page. I'm going to say chatbot. Do not show the navigation. JavaScript file URL. We're going to go sites/legal/chatbot/javascript.js. Apply that. It has applied it. I click on save. Okay, and now I've got, this is a slightly different looking kind of a page, but this is inside of my site pages library. So the URL is automateofficework.sharepoint.com/sites/test/site pages/chatbox.aspx. So you see the slight variations in these URLs where you're sending your users and what they are seeing. Now this looks much like the basic SharePoint page that we showed at the beginning that had many different web parts. Because this is a web part page, it only allows one web part on this entire page. So if I were to click on edit, I cannot add more sections or web parts. It only allows this one. Okay, so this is a slightly different experience. And it does have all the SharePointy navigation. Okay, so to click this button to expand, we right click on it and we click inspect. And this shows us the HTML of the page. We are inspecting an I element, which is inside the button. It's not the button itself. So we go to its parent, which is a span element inside of the button. So that's not the button itself. So we want to go to its parent. Now we have found this is a button element. And now we need a unique identifier because there might be several buttons on this page and we want to tell the page only click this one button. So we need a unique identifier, and we have several properties inside of here. And one that I like to use is this data-automation-ID. It equals page command bar focus mode button. So that sounds pretty unique to me. I don't think there's any other button that's going to have that. We want this button that has this property to be clicked. So I say inside my code, we say button, and then in square brackets, we put the name of the property, data-automation-ID equals, and then the value of that property, which is page command bar focus mode button. And we tell the page to click that. So now when I refresh this page, here I will expand it also so that you can see the SharePoint navigation. Refresh this page. And by default, that button has been clicked. The navigation is not showing. So now we need to find this menu bar. I'm going to inspect that. And I go up and up and up. You notice here on the left, as you hover over HTML elements, they are on the left side highlighted in this blue or a green color, and I'm going up and up and up until I find that it's highlighting too much, and then I bring it back down so I can tell the exact what I want to be selecting. I've got this div with an ID. It's SP command bar. And I'm also going to try, I can right click on it and I can choose hide element. And it shows me that, yeah, something was hidden here. It did not go away, but it hid it. So at least it looks blank. So I'm going to take that element SP command bar and I'm going to add it to my code. $, quotation mark. Now I'm going to use a £, or a hash symbol, because that's to identify the ID. I'm going to paste in SP command bar, and I say .hide, save that, and I'll refresh the page. We should get rid of that command bar, which it has, and now we have one last menu bar that needs to be hidden. That's the SharePoint one. I'm going to inspect on that as well. Go up and up and up to find its ultimate parent. It looks like this has an ID of Suite Nav Wrapper. I'm going to hide that. Save. Refresh. Okay, so now we have done this 3 ways. We have created 3 different kinds of pages. Each one has its different pros and cons, abilities to add other kinds of web parts or not, depending on how you want it, and the kind of URL that you want to present to your users if it's important to you. I am a large fan of sending my users to sites/test/chatbot and having it redirect to a default page, or you can also remove the default.aspx from the URL when the page loads. So it makes it a really nice looking experience for the user, I think. But depending on your needs and what's important to you, you can also send them to a page inside of your site pages library. Okay, so those are the 3 different ways to create site pages that look and feel exactly as you want them to look and feel. Let's go over some basic things inside the site contents again. I'm going to go back to my site contents. Okay, I'm inside of my legal site contents now. This is where I do most of my work. And you can see I have many document libraries. For each solution that I create a document library. If there are extra kinds of data that I need, I create what's called a list. Okay, what's the difference between a list and a document library? Okay, so a document library is a tree of folders. Like for example, I can click into vendor map document library, and I've got some files, default.aspx, I've got a javascript.js, and then I've got a folder called data. And if I click on the data folder, it takes me and I see a lot more files, all these different JSON files. Okay, along with these kinds of files and folders, you can also add columns of data to each one of these. A file or a folder is called an item in SharePoint. So these are items, folders, or files. They're all items, and any item can have a column of data. If I click on this add column, these are the different kinds of data that we can add to these items. You can add a text, you can add a choice, a date and time, multiple lines of text, person, number, yes, no. You can add a hyperlink, currency, location, image, managed metadata, lookup, average rating, and it looks like you can add a content type also. That's interesting. Okay, the main ones that I use are text. I use multiple lines of text, number, and yes, no. Okay, let's go through these. So a text, it's basically what it sounds like. It's a single line of text, and you are limited to 256 characters. You cannot do any more than that. Because you are using less than 256 characters, you can also search according to this metadata. I might show how to do a search later when we're going over the SharePoint API. But this can be very handy for you if you want to search and get all the items that have certain text in here. So I use this for things that are very short. Maybe we have a category or a parent or a person's email address. These things are very short, less than 256 characters. And you might want to be able to search and find all of the items that have the same text, or at least the subtext within the text. Okay, the other type is multiple lines of text, and this is used especially when you want more than 256 characters, or at least the possibility to have more than 256 characters. So this might be like maybe you have a Word document, and you also know the contents of the Word document. According to default SharePoint, you can't search according to the contents of Word documents. You can only search off of metadata, the title of the file, but not the contents. So let's say we wanted to be able to put the contents of the Word document into here. You would add a column, call that contents, and I would give it a type multiple lines of text, and I would put the contents of the Word document into there. Now, because it is more than 256 characters, it is not searchable by default. Okay, there is a way to make it searchable, and you are limited in these. You can make 20 of these searchable. Microsoft calls it indexing the data column. And you do that inside on the gear. You go to library settings, and I go to more library settings. There is an option. Here it is, indexed columns, right there. So I do have all of my columns of data listed here, and you can see the different types of data, and I can index certain columns, and you have a maximum of 20. So far it says you have created 0 of maximum 20 indices on this list. So you do have the ability to do it, but you can only do it 20 times. So do it sparingly, do it when you need it. Okay, the other types of data that I use, I would not use the person just because this This creates a unique number for every person that comes to your site. So for you to then translate that to the person's email address, it's actually like two jumps of data. When you can actually get the person's email address, which, yes, I know email addresses change from time to time, but they don't change that often. And I haven't run into the problem yet of having a person's email address change. So I just use the email address and I put it in their email into a text data type instead of using person. Okay. The next data type that I use is number. And I would also do this for like dates. So yeah, the Microsoft way of making a date and time, it does like 2025 hyphen 06 for June hyphen 03 for the 3rd of June. And then there's a T, a capital letter T, and then they give the number of hours in the 24 format, and then a colon, and then a number of minutes, colon, number of seconds, colon, number of milliseconds, and then the letter Z, and maybe there's yeah, by default you're using universal time, the UTC. Yeah, for me, I prefer just to take the current date and time, strip out all of those hyphens and letters and colons, and I just do it as a straight number. This makes it so that you can compare two numbers very quickly. You can minus and subtract. You can see how far apart two things are very easily, and at least for me, it's easier than converting all these date timestamps. So I just use the number. Numbers. Let's see if I click on next. You can have a number of decimal places for your number. You can have a minimum and a maximum value allowed if you want. Okay, and was there anything else? Oh, this yes, no. This is a Boolean, true, false. And in the interface here, it creates a checkbox. Okay, so for most people, if you're looking up tutorials for SharePoint, they're going to be showing you how to make your columns of data, and maybe how to change the colors and make the names nice. But I have found that my users do not want to come to an interface like this. They do not want to see all the folders and files with columns and columns and columns and columns of metadata. It is just too much. Instead, my users prefer a user experience that I build from the ground up to give them the exact experience that they want to have. Okay, and that is possible by making customized SharePoint pages instead of using the default pages, which are basically handcuffing you if you actually know what you're doing. Okay, let's go over lists. So if I go back and back again, back to my site contents, I can come to a list. Let's say department members. Okay, so a list, it's very similar, only there are no files or folders here, and it's not a tree. So it's only a flat list. It's just a one-dimensional list, and by default there is a column of data called title, which is a text, so it's less than 256 characters. By default, also, these titles have to be unique, which you can make them not unique, not mandatory to be unique if you want. So I have a list of, these are the list of people inside my organization, my department members. I do have titles for them. I've got columns for different properties, and can always add more, but yeah, this is just a basic list. I can edit this in the grid view, and then this is kind of like a SharePoint, or not a SharePoint, kind of like a spreadsheet kind of interface. I can exit this. There are also other types of data that are not visible on this view, and to see those, I can click on the down arrow, and I go to column settings and I go to show/hide columns. And now you can see all the data columns that are not checked, so they are not visible. An interesting one is the ID. So I'm going to choose ID. I'm also going to drag it up to the very top so it'll appear on the very left. You can also see who created it or when it was created and created by. So I'm going to apply these. And okay, now I have an ID on the very left. This ID is a number, it's a unique number, and every item inside a list or a document library has a unique ID that is increased by 1 incrementally. And on the very right, you can see the date when it was created, and you see the name of the person who created it. Okay, so these are interesting to see. So now let's start maybe getting these lists of things, and we're going to put it into our chatbot page. So we can go to any of our chatbot pages, chatbot.aspx. Okay, I've got this hi there and click me. Okay, so now instead of making this red and instead of saying hi there, oh, I am going to hide the parent's parent. Okay, and instead of having a button to click, I am going to say append, and I'm going to say div, I'm going to say style equals font size equals 22. Let's say department members, and I'm going to create another div, give it an ID of dept members, and I'm going to put an image in there of chasing dots. I've got it at site/legal images 1/fountain.gif. So we can also get rid of this, save that, refresh. Now it says department members. We've got some chasing dots. Let's also put a div there. ID equals my email address. So we're going to get the person's email address who's logged in and put it there. So to do that, we're going to make an AJAX call. And so this is going to make a call to our SharePoint. The URL is going to be /sites/legal/API/web/lists/get-by-title. In parentheses, we put in quotation marks, department members. I think that's what our list was called. Yeah, department members. And we don't just want the metadata about the list, we want the actual items. So we do /items, and we're going to get all of the items. So we're not going to filter them or sort them in any way. We do want to get them back in JSON format, not XML, which is the default for Microsoft. So I'm going to put my headers, accept application/JSON. SharePoint likes to give lots and lots of extra metadata about these items, which I do not want. I just want the basic metadata. So I'm going to say O data equals none. Okay. And now that gives us back a whole bunch of data. We're going to do console.log and show that data in the console. I'm going to refresh and inspect. And in my console log, we should see lots of data. Okay, it is still giving it back to us in XML for some reason. I'm going to do a quick search. SharePoint API, OData, none. Am I doing this wrong? Oh, I am doing it wrong. It's not none. It's no metadata. Okay, let's try that. Now I should be getting the JSON instead of XML. Nope, still getting it. Maybe I should look at this. Okay, there's no hyphen. It's just no metadata. See, even I don't have absolutely everything memorized, especially when I'm under pressure and talking at the same time. It's kind of difficult to talk and think and do something all at the same time. Okay, so now we see we've got this value of an array of 18 things. So this is in JSON. We're getting 18 different items back. We have all the unique IDs, or not, these aren't the unique IDs. These are the number of the element. And then its ID is 1. And I've got a title, Justin at automateofficework.com. Bio ready is true, hide is null, job title null, manager null, my name null, photo null. Team lead is a string, diagnostics. So these are the items in our list. Okay, so we are getting them. Now we want to be able to put them onto our web page. And yeah, so okay, let's start going through these one by one. We're going to say data.value.forEach function, and let's say person, start a curly brace. Oh, before that, we need to start a variable, HTML equals nothing. And now we're going to say HTML plus equals. We're going to start a div. And now we're going to do plus. And then we do person dot title. And then we're going to close off that div. So now we've got, at the end of looping through all these, a large HTML variable with all these. And we're going to take that div that we created, department, it was dept members. And we're going to insert the HTML variable as HTML. We're going to save this. I've got some kind of a missing, oh, I was missing a closing parenthesis in my for each loop. Come on, are we caching something? There we go. Okay, so now you can see we got a list of all of our department members. And we can do some very complex things here. Like we can check to see who is logged in. Let's get the email address. And I'm going to look up SharePoint API current user. So it'll give me the URL to get the logged in user. Okay, it is underscore API / web / site users. Or no, it's / current user. There's all kinds of URLs you can use for getting data, for modifying data, for creating data, creating files, creating folders, assigning metadata, creating columns of metadata, checking that columns of metadata exist, checking all of these different things. You can automate the heck out of absolutely everything on SharePoint. This SharePoint API is so powerful. I would recommend that you look up SharePoint API working with folders. There, the very top hit is working with folders and files with REST. And this will give you a lot of commands for how to manipulate folders and files in SharePoint. The other way to manipulate data is as a list. And in this left navigation where I have work with folders and files highlighted, the one just before that says work with lists and list items. Click on that one. So yeah, you can manipulate all of these different items. You can get them, you can then place them on the screen exactly as you want them to be placed. You can then also see who is logged in, and you can give them rights to things like a button to say edit a person or delete a person or create a new person on your list. I do have an article all about this. It is at SharePoint. It's my SharePoint CRUD article. CRUD stands for create, read, update, and delete, and I show you how to do all those things on a SharePoint page. That is at lessons/SharePoint-CRUD. Okay, so let's go get back to getting the person's email address. So let's do another AJAX call. Okay, the URL is going to be sites legal API /web/current user. Okay, and here, I'll show you the whole thing. We need to get this back in JSON again. So we do headers, accept application /JSON data equals no metadata. And I can say console.log data. Okay, now we've got an extra piece of data that is in our console. I can expand this and I can see, okay, I see the email, I see the expiration. This is that ID number that I mentioned, that each person on your SharePoint is assigned a unique ID number. That's 12. So if I was to put myself into a person kind of a data type, my number would be 12. And so to me, that's not that useful. You have to first look up, get the 12, then you have to look up all the users to see which one is 12. Then you get my email address, when I'd rather just go straight to the email address. Okay, so let's say if I actually didn't care about all this extra stuff, if all I wanted was the email, I can actually, at the end of my URL, I can put a question mark and I can say $select equals email with a capital E, save that, refresh, and now I should only be getting the email address. Looks like it's getting something from the cache. Okay, now when I expand this, the only property value set I have is the email, and you see my email address. Okay, so now let's say we take this my email address div that we have in HTML, and we're going to say HTML, and we're going to say data.email. And let's also maybe put a yellow background to this so we can tell it's different than the list of email addresses. We're going to say style equals background color yellow. Okay, so I hope you guys are understanding this. We can actually also say, like, next to all of these people, inside the div, I can put another if statement. If, and I can also create a variable. Var my email address equals blank, and then I can set this variable with this email address. My email address equals data.email, And now I can say if my email address is equal to Justin at automateofficework.onmicrosoft.com. Then I want to add an extra button, and I want it to say edit. So now when I refresh, it checks to see who's logged in, and it gives this person an edit button so they can do different kinds of actions that you want this one person to do. We could also make it, we could say like look up the list of owners of the list of that data on SharePoint. And we can say if the person who's logged in is a member of the SharePoint or an editor of the list, then give them a button to edit, okay? This is a much different user experience than sending your users directly to a SharePoint page. I realize that this takes more work. In the end, though, I believe it makes a much better experience because you can make this incredibly complex. You can make it so that your user does one thing on this interface, and it will do several things in the back end. It will send emails, it will update files and spreadsheets, it'll convert to PDF, it'll send out for digital signature, go get those approvals, and it will create a log so that there's a history of all of this happening, okay? All of this is super powerful. For those of you who are interested in this, I have shown you the basics of this, that SharePoint is incredibly powerful. You do not need to go buy some huge $1 million tool. If you already have SharePoint, you already have the tools that you need. You have where your data is already located, and you have a nice place where your users are used to working. By the way, this SharePoint is not the only place where your users can work. Your users could also work inside of Word or inside of Outlook, and Microsoft has made it so that you can put buttons inside those tools. Like the web page that I'm showing here right now, you could have that open up in Word or Outlook, and you can have the user then interacting with this small tool inside the application where they're used to using it. I'll show that very briefly with Outlook. Go to Outlook. Okay, it's opening up. And I have an email, and I should have my apps along the top that will also load. There they are. Okay, so now I've got a couple of buttons for contract templates and for contracts. If I click on contract templates, it loads, and this is a SharePoint page, actually. If you wanted to view this inside of SharePoint, the user would click on this link to view in SharePoint, which is also a SharePoint page. So you can make your tools, and then you can put those tools wherever your users need to see them, whether it's in Teams or inside of SharePoint, Outlook, Word, wherever your users need to see them. And yeah, I'm hoping that you guys are enjoying this content all about SharePoint. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I am Justin Turman, Turman on LinkedIn. I am a lawyer, coder, and linguist. You can also reach me on my website, automateofficework.com. I've got a great big book a call button, so feel free to reach out to me. I do offer my services. I can point you in the right direction, let you know what's possible, and maybe you can just go build it yourself. You use your own IT, your own coders. If they are not able to provide that with you, I am available to provide you with solutions. You can also view the rest of what I've created at automateofficework.com/projects. And you can see so many different ideas of what is possible. Many of these also have podcast content, and as well as links to articles and videos. So get your imagination going. Everything is possible, often just using the tools that we already have. All right, I'll wrap it up with that. You can reach me at justin@automateofficework.com, as well as on LinkedIn, or the book a call button at automateofficework.com. And with that, I wish you happy automating.